creating connections between theology and pop culture. This is if theology. Batman, the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight detective. You know the origin. Rich kid's parents get killed in a random act of violence, chooses not to do therapy and begins a lifelong war against crime by wearing a batsuit. Batman is a cultural icon. Even if all of DC Comics disappears, Batman will still be here. Batman is big and ever-present, but that is not our question, because our question about Batman is biblical. Who in the Bible is Batman? Obviously, Superman is Moses. The parallels are way too easy. Desperate parents send the child away, child adopted, gets powers, saves people. But Batman? There are a few candidates in the scriptures, but which one is like unto Batman? Okay. In any search, we need to define our search parameters. From Genesis to Maccabees, the Jewish scriptures hold a treasure of freedom fighters, judges, kings, prophets, and princesses, all of which could be Batman. But what comparable traits are we looking for? In no particular order, we will be looking for the following. No superpowers. Batman's most relatable commodity. It must be almost plausible that the reader could, given Batman's training and wealth, be Batman. Fighting, solving crime. Batman fights crime, solves mysteries. He is the Dark Knight detective, and there has to be some form of justice or vengeance carried out. Costume change. Batman has always been fashion forward, always cutting edge, especially in black, dark grey, blue, and yellow highlights. Secret identity. To aid in his war on crime, Batman adopts the secret identity of Bruce Wayne so he can freely help the people of Gotham. No one would think that Batman would be the wealthy philanthropist Bruce Wayne. Helper, servant, family member. Batman has Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, and a strew of young followers who he has conscripted to assist him. Batman needs help, especially when he goes all dark and broody. Villain, archenemy. Without a good villain in opposition, the hero is not much chop. Batman has a huge cast of villains. Some are great, some are vile, and then there's Kite Man. Hell yeah! And of course, the most important, no killing. Batman has, in a small set of stories, killed or brought about the death of a villain by not saving them. But apart from these few moments, Batman does not kill. But he will use a battle axe or a gun if he has to, obviously in a non-lethal way. As I mentioned before, we will be focusing our search in the Jewish scriptures. While you may know about Genesis, you may ask, what is a Maccabees? Malachi, for many, is the last Jewish text in the Christian Bible, but it is not the end of Jewish biblical canon, because the Jews, they've kept on going, still here. Catholic and Orthodox Bibles have some of these books in an extra part called the Apocrypha. These texts are in the LXX, the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Jewish scriptures. The LXX is one of the main sources of what became the Christian Bible. So yes, the Jewish Apocrypha is valid, not just because they are Jewish canon and are used by many Christians, but because they hold three of our possible candidates for Batman in the Bible. Let us begin with our first candidate. Samson, long hair, hella strong, freed his people from a Philistines, it's one of those. Long hair, hella strong, superpower, nope. Ehud, like Samson, a judge of Israel. Unlike Samson, not hella strong, but left-handed and knew how to use a sword. Killed his antagonist, leaving him to bleed out in the bathroom. Like Batman, master of prep time, which is all good, however, killing no. Gideon, judge of Israel. Raised an army, whittled that army to a smaller army, used pyrotechnics and sound effects to scare the enemy, killed them all, nope. Deborah, prophetess, aided Barak in beating the Philistines. It's Batman Commissioner Gordon-ish, still no. King David, hallelujah, he may have played that secret chord, but Batman the King of Israel is not. Did lead an early Jewish version of the Justice League, did fight for the people, had a few costume changes. Bathsheba as Catwoman? Not really. Rogues Gallery, Goliath, Philistine, Saul, even his own son. But Bathsheba's husband's murder? King David is great. Richard Gere played King David. He's just not Batman. Not even close. Judah Maccabees, freedom fighter. Fought the Seleucid Empire to free the Jewish people, had a great villain in Antiochus Epiphanes, who had a horrible lack of cultural awareness or just loved eating pork. No, he was horrible. Judah's dad began the fight against the Seleucids. Judah died in a battle against the Seleucids. Judah may be the Hebrew hammer, but Judah is not Batman. Judith. In the words of Neil Finn, now we're getting somewhere. Judith is hella cool, not just in the book's amazing acrostic writing style, but that Judith is badass. How do I do this story justice? Local widow saves town by seducing them beheading general of the occupying army. Yet in this tale, Judith transforms from local widow to hot seductress, who, with female servant in tow, tricks her way into the camp of General Holofernes. She does so because none of the elders, like the Gotham police and Commissioner Gordon, can see a way out of surrendering to the army. If the army gets past Judith's town, they can march directly into Israel and destroy it. The whole nation of Israel rests on Judith's intelligence, sex appeal, and bravery. Keeping this short, Judith, along with her servant, gets Holofernes drunk, beheads him with his own sword, puts the head in the servant's basket, and walks out of the camp without anyone knowing. There are better retellings of this great story elsewhere. Links to them below. Okay. Is Judith Batman? Almost. No superpowers? Check. Fighting, solving, vengeance? Check. Secret identity? Half a check. Costume change? Hot check. Help a servant family member? Check. Villain arch enemy? Check. No killing? Yeah, she definitely killed him. So close, but not Batman. But as in the words of Yoda, but wait, there is another. After the exile of the people of Judah by the Babylonians, the Jews followed the words of Ezekiel and settled in the land they were in, always with the hope of returning. So while in this strange land, a threat to the Jews emerged. You know, the usual threat. The hero of this tale is the Jewess who became queen of the empire. Yep, that's right. Our final candidate is Esther. Esther, who with her cousin guardian Mordecai in tow thwarts the actions of the evil Prime Minister Haman. Boo! Please join with me in booing Haman. Boo. It is the tradition to boo Haman, boo, when the book of Esther is read. It is the holiday of Purim that celebrates Esther's tale. Esther wins the audition for new queen of the Persian Empire, though it was actually closer to the harem of the Persian king. She moves into the royal household, but no one knows of her Jewish heritage. Esther herself was raised by Mordecai. Her parents died sometime earlier. Esther is elevated from obscurity to the palace. Like most royal courts, there's an evil brewing. Along with the scrupulous Haman, boo! Others are plotting to kill the king. Mordecai, who sits outside the palace, overhears the plot and informs Esther. Esther tells the king and gives credit to Mordecai. Haman, boo! Who thinks nothing but of himself, comically ends up having to parade Mordecai around the city, proclaiming to all of how good Mordecai is in saving the king. Enraged, Haman, boo, sets out to trick the king into having a law that will condemn the Jews. Said law plays to the king's vanity against Jewish monotheism. The punishment for not deifying the king on a certain day is, of course, death. Esther gets wind of the plan, and Mordecai tells her she needs to act for her people. One huge costume change later, Esther presents herself to the king. If the king does not forgive this intrusion, Esther risks immediate death. The king is very happy to see his beautiful new wife in her finery and forgives her. Esther invites both the king and Haman, boo, to dinner. Haman accepts. Boo. Of course he does. Pretty little toady knows he can't refuse. At dinner, Esther does the big whodunit to reveal that Haman, boo, not only threatens the life of the Jews of the kingdom and Mordecai, but of Esther herself. For Haman, boo, there is no alternative. A servant puts a cloth over his head. Haman, boo, is all but dead. Esther remains in the royal household. Mordecai replaces Haman, boo, as prime minister. New law is passed, allowing the Jews to take arms to defend themselves. It's all good. Celebration, the origin of Purim. Okay, calm down, Phil. Let's go through the checklist for Esther. No powers. Check. Fighting, solving crime. Check. Costume change. Check. Secret identity. Check. Help a servant family member. Check. Villain arch enemy. Definitely check. No killing. Check. Even though Haman, boo, does die, it's not by Esther's hand, but by the rule of law. Add to this, orphan, raised by a guardian and connected to wealth, not to mention the whodunit scene and the death traps that are faced not just by Esther, but by Mordecai and the entire Jewish population. Who else is closer to Batman? No one. Therefore, the answer to the question no one is asking, who is Batman in the Bible? The answer is Esther. Okay, I'm quite sure you've realised I've had a lot of fun doing this one. This is, I don't know which if theology this is. Look, if you have another candidate for Batman in the Bible, please do not hesitate to comment below. Please like, share. Again, also comment, subscribe. Send this to your friends. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you very much, and God bless.